Hey, BassGeek here, and today we're going to go over my crankbait setups. You know, I get a lot of questions about crankbaits. Crankbaits are probably one of the toughest, most expensive baits you will chase down the rabbit hole. Now, what I mean by that is, sure, if you're fishing a pond or two, you can probably fish, from the shore, you can probably fish square bills constantly, year round, and never need anything else. You could possibly, if you're fishing a single lake and you fish it a lot and it's kind of your go-to lake, you can probably get a certain crankbait bite dialed in, and you may only need one or two colors and one or two styles of crankbait and diving depths of crankbait. But guys, crankbaits, realistically, if you fish a lot of different lakes, if you travel around, I travel around and fish a lot. I haven't got to do as much of that as I like the past, say, year. But I like to go fish different places. The lakes where I live, they're great, but they're not always great. So, they can get tough at times and they can clear up, and they can make crankbait fishing kind of tough. Now, for me, crankbaits were kind of it's just the way I've kind of progressed through baits. I kind of went from spinner baits to crankbaits to swim baits. And I love my crankbaits. I don't fish them near as much as I used to because the lakes, again, that I fish, a lot of them are clear. But I do love to fish crankbaits. I love to chuck and wind. Love it. I love a crankbait. Love a deep crankbait bite. I love it. But what crankbaits have progressed into for me are really locator baits. And in my opinion, a crankbait is very limiting, because 90% of the time, I'd say 99% of the time, there are times when you can use these for suspended fish, but there's a lot better tools in the toolbox than a crankbait. A crankbait, and you hear people say this all the time, they really are best when they're, banging the bottom, bumping the stump, and grinding the gravel. That's sort of my deal. You want these baits digging bottom. If you don't feel it hitting the bottom, then you're not running your crankbaits correctly. You're not fishing your crankbaits correctly. Now, all that being said, and again, always exception to every rule. Most of the time, you don't want to throw a 20+ foot diver in 3 foot of water, okay? That's going to be a long, long day. So you want to kind of match your crankbaits to the depth that you think the fish are at. So that's why you need so many crankbaits, and you need so many crankbait setups. Now, like I said, you can get away with one crankbait setup. If you're fishing from the bank, most of the time a good square bill setup is really all you're ever going to need. I mean, you're not really going to fish that bait much deeper than that. But just the lake that I'm sitting on right now, the front of the boat is on, I've beached it, and the back of the boat is probably in 20 foot of water. So, you can tell this lake is very steep. So I can take something like this, which is a hand-painted rock crawler, and this dives, I think it's like 9 to 14 foot based on your line. And guys, I've got a great breakdown of crankbaits and body styles and which ones work best and what, not really best, but what they do and why they do it well in another video, and I'll link it right up here, of course. But this particular bait, you know, on a steep bank like this, I could actually use this bait. I could set out in 45, and because the bank is so steep, because the bank itself is 45 degrees, I can throw this up into about 2 foot of water and really come down, because this bait is going to come down at about a 45-degree angle, a little bit steeper. But it's going to really dig into the side of this bank, and I'm going to be able to fish it all the way down. So I'm going to be able to use this bait to tell me what depth those fish are. So if they hit it at 10 foot, you know, I know after I've got 3-4 cranks in, that bait is down at about 10 feet. I know that I can then pick me a bait that's much like this and really stay on that 10-foot contour line. And then you keep this bait in the strike zone. And with crankbaits, the strike zone is hugely important. Take your contour maps, for example. A lot of times when you're running crankbaits, what you'll find is that the bass are setting 10 to 15, 0 to 5. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pick a crankbait that's going to stay in that strike zone. If you're throwing toward the bank and coming straight down, what ends up happening is your crankbait passes through that strike zone. So you want to position your boat so that you're always casting in that 5 to 10, or that 0 to 5, or that, you know, 10 to 15, or that 15 to 20. And that crankbait stays in that strike zone so that you are running this crankbait by more fish. If the fish are set up in 8 feet, and you can tell that strike zone is that 5 to 10, but you're fishing 15 feet, and you're fishing 0 feet, 5 feet, 0 to 5, you're wasting your cast. So you want to get into a position where you can cast this bait and fish it just to where it's diving just a little bit deeper. So if it's 8 feet, you want to go with maybe a 10-foot diver and stay in that strike zone, and you're going to catch more fish. So that's why we have multiple crankbaits and multiple setups. So now let's talk from shallow to deep. Let's talk about the different setups we've got. I actually bought this at the Classic down in South Carolina about 3 years ago. This is a Speed Demon. This rod is a Speed Demon from Cast King. It's a square bill rod. Now most of the time you'll notice I like a longer rod when I'm throwing crankbaits. The reason why that is, the longer you can make a cast, the deeper that bait is going to go. So this rod actually kind of goes against that. When I'm fishing a square bill, most of the time I'm going to be target fishing. So I'm going to be throwing it, you know, at something, into brush, around or over grass, or at some rocks or some riprap. So I really want to make accurate casts with this particular setup. Now, you'll also notice that I tend to favor lower speed reels with all my crankbaits. This again is the exception. This is a 6/8 to 1. This shallow diver, I really want to burn it. You could even go as high as a 7. I don't know that I'd go much farther than the low 7s, but 7.2, 7.3 to 1, 7.0 to 1 would work perfect. This is a 6/8 to 1. This is a loose LFS. It works perfect in combination with this rod. So let's talk about the action of this rod. Now I want to be able to throw some small, 1.5s up to the 2.5s with this, some variation. I'm not going to go up to like the Magnum square bills on this rod. This is your standard square bill rod. So this is a 6/8. So like I said, a longer rod, you're going to get more distance, more depth. A shorter rod, more accuracy. So this is a 6/8 medium moderate. So the medium gives me enough bend so that I can cast these small baits and really put them right where I want with the short rod. The moderate, the big thing about crankbaits, guys, now a lot of guys go to glass. I'm not a big glass guy. I like to really feel everything that my rod is doing. And since I have really started swim bait fishing, you learn when you're fishing a swim bait to let the rod load. So it's made me a better crankbait angler. So I don't just swing away when I feel that, hit all of a sudden. I, give it a little bit and reel into the fish. I just keep reeling until I feel the load, and then I just start pulling on the fish. You don't, with treble hooks, you don't have to set the hook, okay? So again, you'll see this will run, along with almost every single rod. It's a medium, moderate action, got a nice tip, a little slow tip, so that it keeps those treble hooks in there. Those treble hooks don't necessarily penetrate, they're sticky, as opposed to tacky, where, a single jig hook is really going to penetrate and it's going to lock that fish down. These just kind of grab hold of you. They're more like a octopus, they're just going to wrap you up and get you in. Now sometimes, of course, they're going to come up depending on how hard the bass hits it, and they're going to hook themselves quite well. And there's some other stuff I need to talk to you about, hooks and rounds versus EWGs and all that. Certain times of the year. We'll talk about that in another video. But this is my square bill rod. I really like it. It's very accurate, and I can cast any square bill other than the Magnums that I want. It's awesome. I use generally 12-pound fluorocarbon on that. Now, if you're in super dirty water, you can get away with braid on a square bill. Generally, again, I fish a little clear water, so you'll notice almost everything that I'm throwing is going to be fluorocarbon of some sort. Now, this is a new combo. I had this rod last year, and I really liked it. I don't remember what I had teamed up with it, to be honest with you, but I just got this BB1 in this year. This is the first BB1 I've ever used. I've got 2 or 3 or 4 of the BB1 Pro that I use on my swim baits, and they are incredible. But I will say this, this thing will cast a mile. And in combination with this Lew's rod, and this is a Magnum Crankbait Rod 3, it is a custom speed stick. And I'm telling you, it is impressive. This is my go-to combo. And the biggest reason why it's my go-to combo, again, is because the weight of the lures that this rod can throw, coupled with the weight that this reel can handle. Now this reel is a 6.3 to 1. I like, or 6.4, I'm sorry, this is a 6.4 to 1. I like my crankbait, my mid-depth divers, and that's what this is going to be for. It's going to be from that 5, 6 to 16. This rod is so incredibly flexible. You're probably not going to be able to throw your like 10 XDs on here, but you're definitely going to be able to throw your 8s. But this rod is incredible. I mean, I've been throwing the rock crawlers, the 55s. I can throw the smaller ones too. The DT 10s I can throw on this. It's an amazing combo, and it's probably my go-to combo. When I'm throwing a crankbait, this is probably going to be the rod and reel that I pick up. Now let's talk about the power and the action. So this is a medium heavy, moderate action. But I mean, for a medium heavy, this is what I always say. This has a lot of bend to it. That moderate really gives it a lot of bend to the tip, and it really doesn't stop bending until you get right here. And so it's got some good backbone, so it's going to be able to handle those bigger crankbaits. It's going to be able to handle and absorb a lot of that vibration for you, so you're not beating yourself up. But at the same time, it's got a great load even for the small crankbaits, and you can cast them a daggone mile. Now we'll go back to the length, and the length on this one is a 7'10". So this is a big long rod. Now I do run 10-pound fluorocarbon on here, so I don't go 12. I like 10. That helps me get a little extra depth out of my crankbaits. And again, 6'4" to 1, a little bit faster, so it allows me to really truck those things if they're really on that reaction bite. And that's generally where I almost always start, is that quick retrieve, so that I can get those reaction bites. Again, most of the time, cranking for me is something that I'm using to locate the bass. But this is by far my favorite combo. You know, just put it together this year, and as a matter of fact, today I have thrown the heck out of it, and it's been incredible. Now this combo I've had for a long time, and if you want some good budget, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know that they still make them. I'm sure they probably do. It has to be one of their biggest sellers. But if you want a good budget crankbait rod in all sizes, the cranking sticks from Bass Pro Shops are incredible crankbait rods. Now this crankbait rod, you'll see I've got a Bandit 300 on here. And so this is really for my super lights, my super light crankbaits. So even though that one's going to dive to about, you know, 8-9 feet, that bait is super light, you know, along with like a DT6, very light. But this rod, and I just have to show you, I mean, it is so soft. The rod is extremely soft. But that allows me to get extremely long casts. Now I believe this is a 7 foot, so it's, you know, a little shorter than the other one, but it's a 7 foot, and it only will throw 1/16 to 1/2 ounce. It is a medium light, and it is a medium light fast action, so it's got a lot of bend all the way down. And even though the tip is fast, it's still just, I mean, it's a buggy whip, I mean, really. But this allows you to cast those really small crankbaits that I can't cast on anything. Now, the other thing about casting those small crankbaits, you really do have to have a reel designed for it. And this reel is designed specifically for very light baits. And this is the XOPT. I bought it a couple years back. It's the 100 SPT series. Don't know that they make them, but man, this is a 6 to 1. Again, you know, like a little faster reel for, you know, those medium depth divers. It allows me to burn them if I want to burn them, and I can slow down with them if I want to just crawl them on the bottom. But again, I run 10-pound fluoro on this, and this is for just those light, super light, you know, featherweight crankbaits that otherwise you'd be throwing on a spinning reel. And, you know, I would rather be cranking on a crankbait or a bait casting combo than I would on a spinning reel any day of the week. But like I said, man, you know, this, I have had this cranking stick forever. I mean, it might be as old as some of you guys out there. So this crank stick is last forever. And like I said, if you want to get into cranking, you don't want to really put a lot of money into them, the cranking sticks from Bass Pro Shop is a great place to start. Like I said, just make sure that you're pairing it with a lightweight reel, as far as your ultralight, your feathers. Otherwise, stuff like this, your bandits, you know, some of those Norman, the little ends, you know, the really tiny baits, you're going to want to throw those on a spinning reel probably to start out with. Now, let's move on up into our heavy hitters. Now, this is a custom. This is by Joe's Custom, and this is the Pro Series. My buddy Tim, we were on the Barron River 2-3 years ago. We were fishing for a BFL up there in the Mountain Division. There's a video for that too, somewhere out here. And man, he was whacking them on a, I think it was a 6XD, 6 or 8, I don't remember. But we were out cranking deep, and I mean, I think he ended up finishing. He had a heck of a finish, 16th or maybe even 6th, but he had a heck of a finish. And I mean, he was flat chucking them on this rod. I mean, he was casting those things a mile. And this rod from Joe's, it really is a great rod. You will cast them a mile. Now, this rod is an 8-foot rod. It is called the Monster Crank, again, from Joe's Custom Rods. It is the Pro Series, and it is a extra fast, and it goes 3/8 to 1 ounce, so you can throw all the way up to those 8XDs on this. And you know, to be honest with you, I'm pretty sure me and Tim were throwing a 10XD on it too. But this rod is incredible. It's got micro guides. What I like about it as far as micro guides, it doesn't have the ceramic inserts, so it's got the stainless steel. I'm a big fan of the stainless steel because the things don't pop out, they don't crack, they don't chip. Now you can scuff them up, so you've got to be careful. And I've got this, again, this is an older reel, but it's an oldie but a goodie. It is an Aura winch, and this reel is a 5/4 to 1 because I'm generally going to use this for my bigger crankbaits. So, you know, I'm really going to throw those 6, 8s, you know, DT 20s, those type of baits, those baits that are going to, you know, get out there to, from that, you know, we'll just say that 12, 14 foot all the way out to that 20 plus foot. That's what this is really designed to do. That's what this rod is really designed to do. And again, it's got a very, very, I know it's extra fast, but I'm telling you, it's got a nice tip to it. You can really cast a 6XD a mile on it. So don't be fooled that this is a big broom handle. It is not. And you can cast it a mile. Again, 10-pound fluorocarbon is what I'm going to go with. It's an Aura winch. And again, it is a 5/4 to 1. So this is a medium heavy extra fast action rod, 8 foot long. Now we get into the big boys, and let me tell you, this is a big boy. This rod is, I'll just give you the comparison. You know, I was talking about how small the other, you know, rod was earlier, and I mean, just look at the girth, take a drink, inside of this rod. This is my 20 plus rod. It is massive. This is a rod that I got from ConnectScale. It is a 7'11". It is, you could honestly probably throw big swim baits on it. Man, this thing will, I mean, it'll cast those big Z-bosses, those Azumas, a mile. Those 25s, those 20s, 23s, I mean, it'll cast them a mile. Those 10XDs, that is all you're going to throw on this. That is all you're going to throw on this rod. That is all it is for, is the big boys, the deepest of the deep divers. That is what you're going to throw on this. And almost always, I'm not going to go lower than 10-pound test on this. My go-to is 12. If I have to, I'll go up, but I don't like to go past 12 because I want all the depth I can get out of these big, deep diving crankbaits. Now, you know, I told you earlier, if you're in the market for a very good budget cranking stick, make sure you look at Bass Pro Shop's cranking sticks. And believe it or not, their pro qualifier, they make it, this is a 5-6 to 1. And guys, this reel right here has done one heck of a job on casting those baits out there. Now eventually I think I'm going to replace this with like either a BB1 or a BB1 Pro. But for right now, you know, I got a heck of a deal on that pro qualifier. And I've used pro qualifiers before on some deep cranking rods. And I'll tell you, I was casting this one out last year when I got it just to kind of see what I thought about it. And I couldn't be more impressed. For the money, you can get them on sale some years as low as $49. So you can put together some really, really sweet cranking combos. Like I said, if they still sell the cranking sticks, and I hope they do, because that is an amazing little line of crankbait rods for the money for you guys to get started. Now, like I said, guys, do you need all these rods to go out and throw a crankbait? No, because your situation may be completely different than mine. But now you guys that are fishing tournaments, you're fishing lakes that, you know, you don't normally go to, and you're cranking a lot in them, then you're going to want to make sure that you have at least enough rods that are going to cover the depths you need. Now there's a little bit of crossover in these rods, but the thing of it is, guys, sometimes when you get out there and you know they're in that maybe, you know, 8 to 12 foot section in the water, you're going to want to maybe have a couple different types of crankbaits tied on. And again, that video is up here. You can go check out the different body styles, but it may just be as much as a color. You may get on an area and get you 2 or 3 bites and be able to pick up a different color in the same crankbait, throw it out there and get you 2 or 3 more bites. That's kind of how crankbaits work. You know, you want to make sure you can cover all the depths that you believe the fish are in, so that you know and you learn exactly what they're doing. All right, guys, that is it. Like I said, I hope this taught you a thing or two, or gave you some information if you're thinking about getting into crankbaits, or if you're already into crankbaits, expand your mind when it comes to crankbaits. Like I said, the biggest reason I like these, and I'm not saying they're the best setups, they're what works for me now. I'm always tweaking, I'm always learning, I'm always testing new gear. So, you know, this one may work for me for the next 2-3 years, and I may replace it with something else. So, you know, we're always learning. That's the great thing about fishing. You know, it seems like it never stands still. All right, guys. So, as always, talk to me about some of your favorite crankbaits, your favorite combos that you have, and tell me why they're your favorite combo right now in the description down below. As always, guys, like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe, and you guys rock. All right, guys and gals, let's go ahead and pick who is going to win the Mystery Tackle Box Pro for the crankbait video that we did just last week. Here's the video, spring crankbaits. You can see we're going to copy the URL, and we're going to go to our random comment picker. Alrighty, we're going to filter out any duplicate users. 150 unique commenters. And here we go. Let's see who's going to win. All right, Lloyd Self, it looks like you did comment #crankbait. Send me that box. Well, I'm going to. as long as you email me your address, bassgeek.biteme@gmail.com. I will notify you when this comes out. All right, congratulations again, Lloyd Self. Hashtag crankbait, send me that box. I'm going to, bro. Corona!